Welcome to Kicking the Habit. My name is Reginae Edwards, and today we are going to talk about withdrawal symptoms and how to deal with them. Now, this trips a lot of people up because sometimes we don't anticipate that the withdrawal symptoms would be so severe. So we don't want it to trip you up. Some people don't have withdrawal symptoms at all, but for many people, they do. So I want you to be aware of those withdrawal symptoms. Think of ways that you can overcome them or get through them and be successful as you're on your journey to becoming a non-smoker. Now, I want you to be aware of these particular withdrawal symptoms. The first thing that a lot of smokers, as they quit, experience are increased hand tremors or just shaking. Another thing is insomnia, trouble falling asleep or staying asleep for a period of time. Some say that they experience nausea, feeling sick to their stomach, or just wanting to vomit. Others talk about restlessness or anxiety, even seeing, hearing, or feeling things that are not truly there. And I know that can be scary, but if you're aware of that, you won't think you're going crazy. You know that's a withdrawal symptom. Sweating or even rapid heartbeat. So you want to be aware of some of those things. But what I want to listen to now are the experiences of real people. So the question that we asked the participants is, the day you quit, what were all the thoughts going on in your head about becoming a non-smoker? Let's listen to what they had to say.
The day I quit smoking, I vividly remember the first day, the first time that I smoked. I got on, I did very well Friday, Sabbath, Sunday, and then Monday I got on the bus to go to work. At that time, you could smoke in public. At that time, cigarettes didn't cost that much, and you could actually ask people for a cigarette if you didn't have one. I got on the bus, and a person got on the bus smoking my brand. The struggle was to ask or not to. I prayed at that time, God, give me the courage, give me the strength to not ask for this cigarette, because you know if I do, I'll never stop. He gave me the strength to get off the bus without asking for the cigarette, and I was cigarette free for 10 years.
Well, the first day I quit, the thoughts that went through my head, was about becoming a non-smoker were all wrapped up in that I had a job to do. And I was a medic and I took care of people, and I wanted to continue doing that. So those were the thoughts in my mind. I have to quit because I have people that I have to take care of. Now, the second time I quit, I really didn't have any thoughts about anything else, just quitting. I wanted to quit. I was tired of smoking. I was tired of the whole lifestyle of having to pick up a cigarette or even just smell them. So I just, that's the thoughts, was just to quit. It wasn't about, do I want to pick it back up? It was just quit.
When I first realized that I wasn't going to smoke that day, I felt almost as if I was losing a friend. I really felt lonely. I didn't know what to do with my time. I didn't even, know what to think about not smoking. It just felt really foreign. It felt like I was moving to a different country, or someone had died close to me, or like I lost a leg. I felt an extreme sense of loss. And I was at a loss, and I just kept having to pray or refocus my thoughts, because it was really hard. It did not seem natural.
Those responses were so unique. You heard what Isaac said. He was thinking about others the first time that he quit, and the thoughts in his mind were, I want to help others and save lives. He was a medic. So if he continued smoking and continued having the chronic bronchitis, he couldn't help the way that he wanted to. And it goes back to, as health educators, we learned the health belief model. And again, for a person to change their behavior, they consider very different things. There's costs and benefits, and if the cost of changing that behavior is more than the benefits, then they're predicted to be less likely to change, basically. So for him, the benefit of helping others was much more than the cost of changing that health behavior, and he decided to change. But on the other hand, he said that with the second time, he actually almost had a distaste for the lifestyle of being a smoker. He didn't like the smell. He didn't like it at all. And so those were the thoughts in his mind. He was probably just very disgusted with the whole idea. And those were the thoughts that encouraged him to actually look forward to becoming a non-smoker. Now, when we look and listen to Kathleen's response, you hear something a little different. And we've talked about this before. It's something that is a bit more typical with females. You heard her say, I felt lonely. I felt like I was having an extreme sense of loss, like I was losing a friend. I mean, those are really serious terms. You would think that she was losing an actual person. But again, this is something that we hear with women time and time again, that it is really that serious. When you have a couple, sometimes we get couples that want to come and they quit together. And you have, here's the husband and here's the wife, and if the husband is ready to quit, he's like, yeah, I just crumbled it up and I threw it in the garbage and there it was. And the wife, she wants to quit. She's very motivated. She doesn't want to do it anymore. And she's having a much harder time. And it can be kind of discouraging to see the husband quit so easily. If you're a woman listening, please know that it's very different as a woman sometimes to quit. Not that it's impossible. It's very possible. I know many women who have quit. But you have to realize that it is a very serious thing to feel like you're losing a friend, to where we almost... I hate to say this, we have to bring women sometimes through the grief cycle as if they were actually losing a loved one. So know that if it's a little bit harder for you, it's okay. The women on this video have quit and they've done it successfully, and many women have. But just know that you might have to go through that grieving process. And if you're aware that that is something that you're going to have to go through, that it's going to be hard, and it may not seem as easy as some guys that just throw it in the garbage when they're ready to quit, be encouraged that you can do this. Now, the next question that we asked our participants was, what withdrawal symptoms did you have? Let's hear what they had to say about that.
I had no withdrawal symptoms for 10 years until I encountered stress that I was not willing to deal with, and I started smoking again. Then the withdrawal symptoms were headaches. The withdrawal symptom was nervousness. It was a pain that cannot be described. Only another smoker can understand that pain.
Thankfully, on both occasions, the first time I smoked and the second time I smoked, I really didn't have any withdrawal symptoms at all.
My withdrawal symptoms were very intense. I had anger fits. I was very irritable. I was depressed. I had headaches. Everything that could go wrong basically did when I was trying to smoke. There was nothing in my favor saying, oh yeah, this is pleasant, this is great, this is fun.
I love that we get to hear the responses of actual people, because as you can see here, every person had a different experience with their withdrawal symptoms. Not only that, but the same person had two different experiences when it came to withdrawal symptoms. You look at Brenda. She said the first time that she quit smoking, she had absolutely no withdrawal symptoms. But the second time was a different story. She said that she had headaches, nervousness, and an indescribable pain. Now that sounds weird, but I've heard many people say that they have this indescribable feeling, emotion, or not just something that they feel in their mind, but even in their body that they can't really describe. So just know that that is something that could happen, and don't think that it's odd or abnormal. It is a withdrawal symptom to you. Now, you heard Isaac, no withdrawal symptoms. Okay, but Kathleen, when you listen to what she said she had anger fits. I don't know what that meant exactly, but anger fits never sounds good. She had anger fits. She was very irritable, depressed. She had headaches. She said nothing about the experience encouraged her to want to continue on as a non-smoker, not judging by her withdrawal symptoms. Now, if you are a family member of somebody who is desiring to become a non-smoker, try to give them a little break. I've heard people who's, maybe they have a spouse and they're going through this experience and they're having maybe anger fits or very, very irritable, and they'll say, you need to just go ahead and smoke a cigarette. Don't tell them that, okay? Encourage them and know that that's something normal and it will pass. Now, the next question we asked the participants is, what did you do about these withdrawal symptoms? Now, we know they have successfully quit and they're now non-smokers. So, again, we want to hear how they overcame them so that you can be encouraged to overcome them too. Let's listen to those responses.
How to deal with those withdrawal symptoms. You really cannot deal with it except to give in to it. Otherwise, you have to choose to go through it and endure the pain, and it will disappear. It took, when I finally broke free, it took the average 5 days to really get over the craving of having to have that cigarette.
Well, the first time that I quit as per plan, which I just wanted to quit, so I quit, it worked well. The second time, it was a long, drawn-out thing to slowly put cigarettes down. I never smoked a lot of them, but it just took a long time, some years, to finally not pick another cigarette up. And thankfully, Lord bless that that the last time was successful, and I haven't picked any cigarettes up since.
My withdrawal symptoms were so intense that I realized that there was nothing really physically I could do besides pop an aspirin for the headaches. So the best alternative I had was to realize that they were going to be there. And once you are okay with that and at peace with that and realize that your decision is worth it, it kind of numbs the withdrawals over time.
You heard those responses. Wow. Now, with this, you understand that it may not be easy for you. For some people, the withdrawals are negligible, but for others, can be very extreme. But I like what they said. They basically said, know that it's going to happen and know that it will be over. Usually withdrawal symptoms only last for 1 to 2 weeks max. So if you're aware that this is going to happen and you're aware that this will end, it will not always be like this, then you can have the power that God can give you, like Brenda said, to actually go through it, go through the pain. And I like what Kathleen said, know that it's going to be there and be at peace with it so that you're not overwhelmed with these things that seem like they're happening to you and get that urge to quit. It's usually within that first week that a person picks back up the cigarette because they want to feel normal again or under the influence of the cigarette. So if you're aware of these withdrawal symptoms, or if there's somebody that you know that needs to hear this, share it with them, because sometimes they'll feel like, I can't do it, I'm not strong enough. Let them know that it's very normal. And all they have to do is just focus on letting that idea go that it's going to be easy and go through the pain and know that on the other side, the pain is no longer there. Now, let's look at the next question. We asked the participants, how did your plan work out? Did you have to make adjustments along the way? Let's see what they had to say.
My plan was to stop smoking, and it worked out when I made the decision to endure the pain. Then it worked out perfectly. After I endured the pain, there was my gain, and I was able to just rejoice that it was over once again. And by the grace of God, I've never gone back to it.
Some of the things that I did, well, really, there was only one thing that I did to avoid smoking, mainly was to stay away from folk that really smoke that much, even though it's almost impossible. A lot of the people I know smoke, but just to sever those associations, that closeness of where I'm in a situation. In fact, a lot of folks, I told them, hey, look, I don't smoke anymore. So they would tease me about it, but they would honor that. But every once in a while they would tease me and say, here, take one. And I'd look at them and they say, nah, man, I'm just kidding.
God is faithful, and so when you really put your trust in him, he's not going to let you down. So whatever plan that you may have, even if that doesn't work, if you just put your trust in God, anything is possible, and he will make it possible.
Okay, you heard those responses. I like how Brenda said that once you make the choice to just get through the withdrawal symptoms, then that's what really did it for her, to know that it was going to be difficult and that she just needed to kind of grit and bear it and use all the resources and tools and skills that she had and know that it was going to be over. And we looked at Isaac. He had to sever some of those connections that he had. He had his friends around him that might smoke, and that was a big trigger for him. So how he dealt with that plan was to just kind of make sure he wasn't in that environment. Now, it was funny because he said he had friends that would jokingly, offer him a smoke, but they'd be like, no, man, no, I know that you're trying to quit. So again, they may play around with you, but a lot of times, even those of you, if you have friends that still smoke, they oftentimes are really happy and they want to quit themselves and they want to encourage you to quit too. So just make sure that you let them know, and that you, if you have to, sever those times that you spend together until you're a little bit stronger or a lot stronger, really. But they can be very encouraging, so don't stay back from or keep yourself back from telling them what you're wanting to do. Again, you might encourage them to want to quit along with you. Now, Kathleen, you can tell this was a very serious thing for her. It wasn't something that she did flippantly. She said she committed this to God. There were no plans, nothing that she could really do but just follow from step to step what God wanted her to do. So that's what worked for her, and again, that can work for you too. Now, let's look at this last question. The last question was, what are specific things that you did to avoid smoking? We want to hear specifics here. So listen up to hear what their specifics were so they could be a non-smoker.
I had to do specific things to avoid smoking. I had to not be around smokers. I had to make a decision when I got up in the morning that no cigarette. I had to drink water. I had to take showers. I had to just make the decision that this is not what I'm going to do.
The best way to not smoke is to not think about smoking, to not let your mind go there. The minute a thought comes into your head or you get that image of what you would like to be doing, smoking a cigarette, you have to just banish that individual thought, one thought at a time, instead of trying to control your whole day or control the next hour. Just focus on one thought at a time.
Brenda was very specific. She talked about not being around smokers, which was a big trigger for her, but she also mentioned taking showers and drinking water, and those are actually two techniques that people use to help take away that urge to kind of, well, we'll talk about this in a few seconds, but that's one of the ways of dealing with withdrawal, drinking lots of water. But those were two methods that she specifically used. So again, take notes from that. Kathleen, she talked about not even thinking about smoking, banishing the individual thoughts and focusing on just one thought to the next. She really couldn't fathom trying to think about the whole day and say, okay, I'm going to stop smoking the whole day, or I'm going to stop smoking for the rest of my life. She really focused on one thought to the next. And when that thought came into her mind where she thought about cigarettes, anything about cigarettes, she said she had to banish the thought. I mean, think about that. If you're trying really hard not to eat something that just looks really good, I always use chocolate cake because it just seems like it calls your name. If you see that chocolate cake there and you're wanting not to eat the chocolate cake, if you go around all day thinking, I'm not going to eat the chocolate cake, I'm not going to eat the chocolate cake, what are you thinking about all day? Not eating the chocolate cake, but you're still thinking about the chocolate cake. So what she's saying is, I don't even want to think about it at all. So take that as a tip. You don't want to be so focused on not smoking cigarettes that all you're doing is thinking about cigarettes. Earlier in the program, we talked about thinking about just something totally different. Remember, the urge only lasts for a few minutes. And if you can just think about something different for a few minutes, the urge can pass. Now, we're going to talk about the 4 Ds. The 4 Ds are some coping mechanisms that you can use to help deal with the withdrawal symptoms at that moment. The first one, do not act on the urge to smoke. It will pass in a few minutes. Do not give in. This is incredible. Why? Because sometimes we feel like the urge will last forever. But it really won't. Again, this is scientific. The urge will come, and if you can just think about something else, do anything, whatever it is, you can just allow that urge to pass and go on to continuing being a non-smoker until the next time the urge comes. And the urges become more and more spread out until they finally disappear. The second D, deep breathing. Take deep breaths. Breathe in slowly and deeply, then breathe out slowly. Keep breathing until you relax and forget about the urge to smoke. And this is really interesting because when we sit in class, I ask them to pretend like they're taking in a drag, as they would say, taking in that first inhale from the cigarette. And so I have them put a fake something, whether it's a pen or a pencil or a straw, and they pretend like they're taking an inhale, and they go, and you know what they do? They're taking a deep breath. And I ask them, at what other point throughout the day do you take that deep of a breath? They think to themselves, oh, I really don't. A lot of times we're sitting down in chairs, we're sitting in cars, and we really are out of the habit of taking deep breaths. And a deep breath can actually be very soothing for the nerves, can boost our endorphins. It actually feels very good to take in a deep breath. And sometimes just taking that cigarette and taking that deep breath, part of it is kind of relaxing. But when we practice it in class, we show people that part of the relaxation can even come from just taking in the deep breath that we don't normally do except for when we're smoking. Isn't that interesting? So try just taking deep breaths, nice and slowly and deep until the urge passes. Okay, another D. Drink water. Drink the water slowly and hold it in your mouth a little while. If you don't like plain water, try cutting up slices of lemon or orange and just squeezing it in there. You get the vitamin C that helps deal with stress, and you'll also drink that water. Water actually kind of dilutes the chemicals in your body, the nicotine, and it actually brings down the urge to smoke. So don't neglect that. Drink lots of water. Distract yourself. Take your mind off smoking. I can't emphasize this enough. Think about something else, just like Kathleen said, or focus on what you are doing. Whatever you're doing, just focus hard on that. Get up, move around, do anything that will take your mind off the thoughts of smoking. Again, the urge only lasts for a few minutes at the most. So if you can just get through those few minutes, know that you're one more step closer to becoming a non-smoker. Now, even with the 4 Ds, you heard the responses that they didn't necessarily use all of these 4 Ds. There's so many ways, again, of going about this. But you hear time and time again that they talk about God. You know, Kathleen and Brenda especially, they talked about God being the one that helped them through this situation, that gave them the strength to go from being a smoker to a non-smoker. And a lot of times, you know, people will ask the question, does Jesus really understand what it's like to be addicted? To have to deal with craving that is so intense? I think of Matthew chapter 4, and where he is drawn into the wilderness and he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. Let me ask you, have you ever gone a whole day without food? Have you ever gone one meal without food? Can you imagine going 40 days without food? Can you imagine the craving that he might have felt? The craving for something that wasn't even bad. It was actually something that everybody needs, what we all need to survive. So he had an intense craving. It says when he came out of his wilderness experience, he was hungry. So does Jesus understand how you feel when you're craving for something? Of course he does. He understands, and he overcame. I want to actually go to Matthew chapter 4. It says here that when Satan came to him, he said, if you're the Son of God, then why don't you just make these stones turn to bread? Jesus could have done that. He could have done that easily. But Jesus made it a point to not do miracles to benefit himself, but to benefit others. And he didn't want to do anything outside of the will of his Father. And what did Jesus say in response? He said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. It was Jesus' purpose, now listen to this, not to satisfy that craving outside of the will of God. Now I want to be delicate about this. If we are a smoker, we are trying to satisfy a craving outside of the will of God. And there's encouragement there because Jesus understands what it feels like to crave, to be hungry after 40 days of not having anything. But he still decided not to satisfy that craving outside of the will of God. And God gave him the strength to do that. You too can start to explore how you can satisfy that craving inside the will of God.